Okay everyone, we're back on Assetto Corsa and back on the PC to get a setup around the Redbull ring. It's a track that I've done quite a bit of work on the PS4 recently, and I haven't actually done much at all on it on the PC, so I thought I'd go to the Redbull ring and we'd try and get ourselves a nice setup in a different car that we haven't tried yet on the PS4, and it was a Mercedes AMG Gt3. Okay, so it's going to be a little bit different. What I've done with this setup is I decided to start doing my setups a little bit different rather than just going to a hot lap and trying to get one hot lap out of a setup, as I don't really feel that's the best way to get a setup done. Although I do try and test them out in like online races, etc. against AI, I thought the best way I'm going to start doing these setups now is I'm going to fuel the car with 4 laps of fuel, and I want to get the car as consistent as I can over 4 laps. Rather than just going for an all-out lap, I wanted to do this first, get the car consistent, and then what we'll do after this video, we'll then show a hot lap of the car after we've done the consistency test. So this is after, as you can see in the top corner there, we've done about 48, 49 laps. We actually did more, we went on to about lap 60 or something, and I just kept hitting the same laps after this point. We've got the car to a point that I think was a nice level that should serve you really well online. It may not be the ultimate fast setup, but I felt it was really consistent. We ran the traction control on level 12 for this, which is the weakest setting. We did also do a test with it on the weakest setting, but we increased the rear downforce by 1, which we'll get to when we're talking about the setup. And they drove identical, although I felt this would be a better way to go around. It would be running the weakest set, because you're going to be able to run with that lower downforce. We were actually hitting, you can visually see we were going slightly faster down the straights on the miles per hour we were hitting at the end of after turn 1 at the end of that straight. So, and that's a real overtaking opportunity at that end of that straight into that really tight right hander with the big braking zone. So I think this setup now is going to be pretty much impossible for other GT3 cars to overtake with the speed it's got, and 2, you're going to be able to overtake a lot of GT3 cars. I will be trying to get on the PC and find the lobby that are running this at some point. I don't know whether it will be in the next few days, it could be in a week or so, and I will try and get the footage uploaded to yourselves so you can see how it's done in a race. I don't really know how it's going to do. It feels good, it feels nice. I can't see it having many issues. There's obviously a lot of fast PC players out there, so it'd be good to come across some of them and see how this will handle against some of them driving the Ferrari, for example. I'm not too sure whether the Ferrari is faster than this. From what I've done so far, it's extremely close with this AMG. I feel this track is very suited to this AMG. As you can see from the laps we've been doing so far, in these 4 laps, what I did was, I think it was three or four flying laps, and all the laps were late 29s, very early 30s. There was no laps that went drastically over or stupidly under, but I wasn't pushing 100%. I was trying to keep it around 90 to 95%, just to keep that consistency up while I'm driving. In the lap we'll show you after we've done these consistency tests, you'll see that when we push it a lot harder, it has a lot of potential, this car. One thing I did do as well, we tried to just really work on the ride height with this car. I went as low as I could, basically, to see how it react, and it wasn't so great over the curves. But what we've done now is we've got it to be able to hit the curves on turn 1, and it actually takes them quite well, even if you're very aggressive on them. You'll see on the hot lap we hit it quite hard, and we still managed to just come out the bend as if we hadn't even gone over a bump. Whereas with the Ferrari, I feel that may be a little bit too low on the previous setup I've done. I may have to have a little go back to that and try and alter, maybe raise the ride height by 1 or 2 clicks. We'll have a little look at that on the PS4 setup we did, or maybe go to the PC version and do a setup for that and see if it does need raising on the PC, as we've already got that PS4 version out, and the ride height is identical on the PS4 PC from what I've experienced so far. One thing I didn't really have to change with this car was the camber angles. I don't think I altered them at all. One thing you might want to do is maybe putting an extra click of negative camber on the rear. However, it might create a little bit of, it might not give you that the rear end turning as much, because you have a lot of grip, a bit more grip on the rear. It might create, not understeer, but it won't get that front end turning as much. which I kind of like. The only corner that it may create an issue with the current setup is turn 3, but once I got used to it, I found it fine and easily to drive around. So it was just a case of just don't put in with the torque this car is, it's not just going flat out, going maximum attack out of that corner, just feeding the throttle through. That's why I've left the throttle indicator in the bottom left so you can see it. And then when we come through to doing our hot lap, we'll go through how we're going to brake, where we're going to brake, and etc. I think you can see from this footage now, we've got the setup pretty much spot on. It's 3 or 4 laps of just consistent, very low 30s, a late 29, I think it was 2 late 29s and a low 30, and that was coming straight out the pits. We've got all the settings as you would race online, nothing's different. We've got tyre wear on, we've got the mechanical damage on, everything is how you would race it online. That's how I think this is the best way to do our setups from now on. You know, give me some feedback and let me know what you think, but I think you guys would rather have a setup that's been thoroughly tested and been consistency tested, because you guys want to race with this setup online, you guys want to know how it's going to perform. The problem with doing a hot lap setup is sometimes you're going to do a hot lap setup and it may be able to randomly get a very fast lap, but it may not be consistent in a race, and I think consistency is more important than all out speed. So that's what we're going to try and do. We're going to also include a fast lap with the setup as well in the videos anyway, but I just think it's just something a bit more, you know, you can also see when you go a bit wide, because we're doing 4 laps and not every lap is going to be exactly the same through each corner. Sometimes we're going to run right wide for a bend, you can see maybe where I change a gear to counter that. It's just a little bit more information for you guys to see how I'm driving when I'm driving in a race situation, where you guys can pick up any tips that you might think that you could benefit from. So you can see there, we're over the line, another reasonably good lap, and that's our fuel has actually run out now, we're on 0, so we're just slowing down now, 4 good laps. I think we're really happy with that setup as it is there, consistent and where we want it. So we're going to go through a quick guide of the track now when we're pushing hard in this AMG to see what lap time we can get when we're really going for it. So we're going to look out for the 100 yard on the left, braking just before that, going down into 3rd gear, just be careful on the brakes, trying to get the car slowed down so that we can get on the power before we're coming out of that corner. This is going to give us maximum speed now heading into turn 2. So we're going to go into 6th gear. You can see the speed compared to the other cars. We're already hitting 148, 149, 150. At that point, braking just before the 100, going down into 2nd gear. Just be careful not to brake too late there, or you will run wide. You know, you're travelling at some speed now in this car, but it has still got some good brakes on it, considering we are running with very low downforce. Going into 6th gear now, and you're going to look to brake just before the 100 again on the left. Braking down into 2nd gear. See, we're going to go braking down into 2nd gear. Just be careful on the throttle now. We ran a little bit wide, slow on the throttle, maybe lost a tenth or 2 there, but you know, you're going to make mistakes when you're doing it. I didn't want to spend too long hot lapping this, just wanted to see how fast it would do. Braking down into 3rd gear from the 50 yard board on the right, and then getting on the power as early as we can into 4th gear, and then down to 3rd gear for this one, then early into 4th gear. And if you get, we actually didn't do that perfectly. If we'd done that a bit better, we could have actually gotten the power a little bit earlier and took more speed through this section now. Now we're going to go into 6th gear and look out for the 50 again on the left, where we're going to brake down into 4th gear. We actually slightly missed the apex a bit there, had to run a little bit wide, get off the throttle a bit before we could brake, or we would lose the back end. Down into 3rd gear, hard on the power, coming out the final. We actually took the last bend really well, considering we ran wide on that corner, and I think it made the lap. And we're over the line for a 1 minute 29.5. That's a very good lap in this AMG Gt3, and I think it's got potential to do a 29.2 to 3, which is a nice, I think it's going to be very competitive online, this car, with this setup that I'm going to give you now. So going through to the setup, the gearing, make sure you take down all the gears. We did alter, I think, some of the 3rd and 4th gear to give us a bit more gear in 3rd when we're coming out of the corners, and we need to go down into 3rd gear. Tyres, we actually had to run quite low pressures with this car. It was keeping the tyres very low on temperature, so you will need to run quite low pressures to keep the temperatures up with this car, and it will survive. As you can see from the 4 laps we did, they stay in a really nice range. No need to worry about overheating tyres with this car, with this setup that I've done. Feels really nice to drive, so make sure you keep them pressures nice and low. Aero, we ran 1.2. Now this is where you're going to gain so much against other cars. This car can run 1.2, and it's a fast car anyway. You are going to be able to pull out some very fast top ends and overtake a lot of cars with this setup. Cambers, we ran them totally standard. We didn't touch the cambers, I don't think, because it felt so nice as they were. I didn't see the point in altering something that felt nice already. Toe angles, I think we adjusted for the rear to give more grip on the rear. Also, we adjusted quite a bit within the suspension and the dampers just to give ourselves more grip at the rear, because obviously we're running that very low downforce, so we wanted to adjust the suspension to give us that grip, and also for over the bumps so we could attack them curves through turn 1, and also coming into that final sector where we're sometimes going to run wide on that rumble strip and you want the car to behave nicely. Differential, we clearly ran it on the setting for no traction control anyway. But we actually ran the lap with traction control on the weakest setting. But if you want to run that traction control on 0, so it's off, just try running 1.3 on the downforce and it should drive exactly the same. Although just note you will be about 1 miles per hour, maybe 1 to 2 miles per hour off the top speed at the end of the straights, which might not sound a lot, but it can make a difference. Lap time wise, it was identical. I was lapping consistently without traction control on in the 1 minute 30, low 1 minute 30s, a few late 29s, so it'll be very similar, but I just preferred the consistency of having it on the weakest setting. Anyway guys, I'm going to leave you now with the replay from that hot lap that we've just done. Make sure you hit that like button if you like this video, and make sure you subscribe if you want to check out my future videos. Thanks again for watching.